The Leafs need a defensive overhaul, and here is what I am recommending to get the problem solved for them to fix it. Let's take a look and see. All right. Let's look at what we need to do here. So I actually have the Calgary Flames team open on Cap Friendly right now because they have a few defenders that I think we're all interested in, that people are hearing about. So I'm going to go over what a few different options and then my number one option as to what I think they should do. I haven't really heard this one be proposed very much. Well, let's go through a few different options. The reason why we're talking about Calgary is that they have a lot of unrestricted free agents. So they have Zadorov, Tanev, and Hanifin. Those are your big three that people are looking at. So I just want to look at different options. So the first option that I want to look at is if the Leafs trade for Zadorov. So in my video yesterday, I did talk about a few things. And what I talked about was that the Leafs defense, all their players are good on themselves. However, their defense is missing an element of size and physicality, and they are missing some scoring from their back end. So that's what the defense core is missing from the Leafs. So first scenario I want to look at is the addition of Zadorov to the Leafs defense. Just Zadorov. So here's a mock proposal. It's so hard to predict exact trade proposals, but here's what I'm proposing. So in this scenario, it is just Zadorov. Zadorov is huge. He's a big boy. Let me open up just him. He's 6'6", 235. He hits. Last year, he put up 14 goals, but if you look at his career, that's not to be expected. He kind of puts 4 to 7, and he gets some points. But the biggest thing for him is he's huge, he's physical, so he'll add a presence, a physicality to our defense that we don't have. So in the trade, I put John Klingberg, and that was specifically for cap reasons. John Klingberg, we don't know what's going on with him. He's kind of MIA right now. Is he another Robidas Island victim? Who knows? But in the scenario, let's treat him as if he is still on the Leafs cap, and we would have to trade him to get Zadorov. In the scenario, the cap only almost comes out even. The Leafs come out a bit positive here, or meaning that their cap situation gets a little bit better. But not a ton. They're pretty close. Zadorov is 3.75 and Klingberg is 4.15, I believe. So it's like $400,000 if I did the math there quickly. So 2 third-round picks, one in 2024, one in 2026, and Nick Abruzzese, who is doing pretty good in the AHL right now. I believe he's 24. He's close to a point per game in the AHL. Not great. So I'm not putting a ton of value on Abruzzese. Here, the biggest thing is 2 third-round picks for Zadorov. It's so hard to predict what his value is going to be. So I got Luke Schenn open here. He was last year. Big physical defensive presence, kind of like Zadorov. But he was traded for a third-round pick, and his cap hit was only $850,000. So we have him on one side, and the other extreme of the big physical defensive defenseman is Ben Sherratt from a few years ago, who had a bit higher of a cap hit. They retained 50%, so I think his total cap was $1.75 million, and he was a first and a fourth, and a prospect who was a third-round pick. So a pretty big package, a first, fourth. I am thinking Zadorov is going to be closer to Schenn than Sherratt, but who the heck knows? If Calgary can get a first for Zadorov, it would blow my mind, but we've seen weirder things. Let's be honest here. I honestly thought at the time that Sherratt was going to get a first. I don't believe Zadorov is going to get a first. I think he's going to be about a second. But I also thought Luke Schenn would get a second. So when we got him for a third last year, I was happy about that. So let me close those. So with Zadorov, we got Riley Brody. I really like that pair. Good puck moving. The problem with Brody is he's not overly physical, but he is defensive. Giordano McCabe, I like that pair as well. We're putting McCabe on the right side. It's a recent thing. We can also put Zadorov on the right side. Not too sure who would end up there. McCabe has that physicality to him. Giordano's just a grinder. Zadorov, huge, adds that physical presence. And we have Connor Timmins coming back into play. And I'm excited to see him, to see if he can get a scoring presence going, if we can get a bit more offense from our defense. So this is one option. We still have Liljegren here. The forward group is as remains. This would be until Liljegren comes back. He's out for a while. So that was option number one that I wanted to play with, was just Zadorov. Option number two is a more expensive, and it was Tanev and Zadorov. Still not exactly what I think is the best option, but I wanted to play around with this too. So in this scenario, I believe Tanev is going to be worth about a first and a third. So I think Tanev is actually worth quite a bit. In this scenario, I put 50% retention on Zadorov and Tanev, which we go back to the Calgary Flames. You can only have 3 retention spots. And if they trade Lindholm, he's probably going to get one of them. If they trade Hanifin, that's probably another one. And then you have Tanev, which is another one. And then Zadorov will be a fourth. So I don't know if they're going to do it on Zadorov. You know, if I am Calgary, I'm trying to hold on to Hanifin and Lindholm, and I'm trying to extend them. And then I would trade Tanev and Zadorov. But if they can't get those guys signed, you just trade them all, right? Like, you just get as many assets as you possibly can. They're in no position to hold on to these guys. But yeah, so in this scenario, it was hard to predict, but Klingberg out just for cap reasons. I put Liljegren in a first. So I did say that Tanev is about a first and a third, and I think Zadorov is about a second. I think Liljegren's worth about a late first. Originally, when I played with this, I put a first and a third going to Calgary. So maybe I'm a little bit short here, but I just want to make a concept. Yesterday's video, I did talk about Liljegren and how he's kind of just like Mario when you're playing Mario Kart. He's just okay at everything. He doesn't excel in any specific way. And we already have a few other defensemen like that, like in terms of Brody, in terms of Giordano. And I want some sort of contrast. I think we need more physicality to our defense, and we need more size to our defense. So when I look at this, Tanev is a fantastic defenseman. However, he's more like another Brody. He's very defensive-minded. He has great defensive metrics, but he isn't overly physical. He is a right shot, which is great. But he's not overly physical, and he doesn't put up a ton of points. And those are the two things that I think we need. So Zadorov adds that physical size, that physical presence that we need. But Tanev adds a good defensive. Like, he would be a defensive upgrade over Liljegren, no doubt. But I don't love this decor. You can have it in multiple different ways. I have McCabe, Tanev here. We have 7 defensemen here that can just rotate around. I'm not really too set on these lines. I kept Timmins. So in this, we have Riley, Brody, McCabe, Tanev, Zadorov, Timmins, Giordano. I like it. Don't love it, especially since we're giving up a first in Liljegren. My number one favorite option that I'm hoping for is Hanifin and Zadorov, because Hanifin adds that level of scoring. Let me open up his card. Nothing too crazy, but 38 points last year, 48 the year before. You know, he has 9, so on pace for another 40-ish this year. That's good. You know, like, our defense hasn't been scoring over the past few years. He's a really good defender. And I would only trade for Hanifin if we can get him extended, because he is going to be expensive. I think he's going to be worth a first, a third, and a prospect is what I think. And a solid prospect. So I'll go over this option, and then I extended him 7.25 times 8 years. I don't know. It would be hard to predict his contracts. That's something I'm not very good at, but I wanted to look at this regardless. So that would be a little bit cheaper than Riley. Why I'm happy to give him 8 years is he's 26 at the moment. He's 27. I think it was in January. Let me just double check here. January, he'll be 27. So he'll be 27 when this contract starts. So it'll take him from 27 to 35. Obviously, those last few years, you know, like, he probably won't be playing up to it. But for now, that would be just a great contract. He'd be a great addition, because then you go Riley, Hanifin, Giordano, Riley, Hanifin, Zadorov, Riley, Hanifin, McCabe. We have a lot of different options here. So in this scenario, I traded. So it was very similar. So the other package that I traded for Tanev is I had Abruzzese. Did I even put Abruzzese? No, I just put Klingberg, Liljegren in a first. So in this scenario, I put 2/3, a fifth, and Abruzzese in. I don't know if this would get it done because the difference between Hanifin versus Tanev here was Abruzzese 2/3 and a fifth. So it was more volume. If I'm Calgary, I'm looking at a guy like Topi Niemela and be like, I want him. The reason why I didn't add him here is because I'm already giving them 2 right defensemen, and I would love to keep Niemela. So I don't know if this is enough, but I wanted to just play around with it. I believe Liljegren is a late first, so it's like first, third, Niemela. First, third, Liljegren for Zadorov, a third, a fifth, Abruzzese for Zadorov with the retention. So this might be a little bit short, but I just wanted to play around with it and say this is the option that I really want. Riley, Brody, really like that pair. Said that a few times. Obviously, missing a physical aspect from that line, but you have a scoring. You have a really good defensive player in Brody. Second line, Hanifin, McCabe, and of course, we can play around with these lines quite a bit. Hanifin adds some scoring. McCabe adds that physical presence. Hanifin's also a big boy as well. 6'3", 215. For those who don't know, Morgan Riley's a big boy. Like, I don't think a lot of us think of him as being huge, but he's actually huge. It's not letting me look. I want to open up Riley's, but I'm pretty sure he's also 220-something pounds, and he's just a big boy. He's just not that physical. Zadorov, huge, like huge. And then with Timmins, and I'm really excited to see what Timmins has to offer because, like last year he had quite a few points. I would really like to see him get unlocked and see what he has. And they have Giordano as a 7th. I would just rotate a few of these guys in and out. So it's like, sure, I have Giordano as a 7th right now, but he's been really good in that number 2 defensive spot too. So I really don't mind having these 7 guys and just having some sort of rotation, whether it's Zadorov, McCabe, Timmins, and Giordano, and they just constantly just rotate. One person sits out, or they play 7D. But that's another option. But either way, cap works here. We're 320K underneath the cap, and that's with Ryan Reeves still here. So we have a 22-man roster. So this does have more potential to get another guy. Call it a Patrick Kane, if that might be a bit too crazy, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting a Patrick Kane. I think he's going to sign for $1 million or $1.5 million with a competitor for this year, just for 1 year. Time will tell, but I would not be surprised if he signs like almost league minimum just for the rest of the year, just to try and win a cup. The Leafs will be in that conversation of teams. There are other teams who will also be involved in that, but the Leafs would be one. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, a Leafs fan, who was basically suggesting, like, I don't know where Patrick Kane would fit. Like, then I like our forward lineups. Like, where would he fit? Like, would we throw Yarncroke down to the 4th line? That's not fair. And I was like, sure, I agree with you when we're all healthy, but what happens if Nylander gets hurt? What happens if Marner gets hurt? What happens if Yarncroke gets hurt? Just somebody. It's like, at that point, you'd be like, man, I wish we signed Patrick Kane. And I agree with that, obviously. That's what I said. But, I would rather have, that's depth problems. If you're like, man, we have too many good players, that's not a bad thing, right? Like, that gets sorted out. But I would like to see Patrick Kane getting added here. But that's a conversation for another day. I think all the top competitive teams would love to have a Patrick Kane added in. That would be a no-lose situation, ultimately. But what are your guys' thoughts? Like Hanifin, Zadorov, I like this defensive core. Riley, a lot of offense. Timmins has the potential for offense. Hanifin adds some offense. Zadorov has a little bit of scoring because he's huge, but he's just there for a physical presence. McCabe is just a physical guy as well. Brody's just an all-around really good defender. Mark Giordano is just very smart. He's just hardworking. Just love it. So I love this decor. But like I said, I would only give up these assets if we could get Hanifin extended immediately. And I think that's a possible scenario. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but this is the scenario that I want. The crazy one, Hanifin and Zadorov. I think this decor looks amazing. if we can get extended Zadorov as well, that'd be great. But ultimately, Hanifin would be the big one. And I would only give up these assets, all of that, if he were extended. A few other possible options. You have Columbus that has like a few. They have too many defensemen right now. They have Andrew Peaky, whatever his name is, Boquist, and Jake Bean. They're all like $2 million-ish cap. I don't like any of those options, to be honest with you. Boquist has the highest potential. He has puck-moving ability. He's not getting into any games right now. He's only played 5 games. He was an 8th overall pick from Chicago in 2018. He was a big part of that Seth Jones trade. Don't love it. I would like it if, I like Boquist for a team that is rebuilding and who wants to take a chance on a guy. That's not where the Leafs are. Andrew Pecky, he's a big physical defensive defenseman. He was minus 41 last year. I know plus minus isn't huge. He's only gotten 4 games this year. He's in a rotation. He's not even cracking the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's $2.75 million for 3 more years. I'm not really interested in getting him, to be honest with you. I just don't see the fit. And Jake Bean, I think he's been playing a few more. He's played 18 games. I don't know. I just don't love any of these options. But I wanted to throw Columbus out there. Another team I would look at, I want quite a few of the Islanders defensemen. This is like a long shot. I don't see it happening, but Pelech, Dobson, Romanov. Oh my goodness. I think this decor is beautiful, but they are struggling right now. They just don't have enough offense. If they decide to sell one of their guys, like Pollock and Pelech have full no-trade clauses, if they were willing to move or waive, Pollock is a guy that, if we added him with Riley, this would be a huge addition. He's signed very long-term for $6.15 million. He's 29 years old. That would be huge. I don't see Dobson being available. Pelech could be. But Romanov, I know he's another guy like McCabe. He's a defensive defenseman. He's young. He's signed for 2 more years. He's an RFA afterwards. He's physical. So instead of getting, let's say, a guy like Zadorov, I would be interested in Romanov, but he would be expensive. He costed the 13th overall pick back in 2022. It was him in a 4th round pick for the 13th overall. It was an expensive trade. Either way, I just wanted to throw him out there. I would like a guy like Romanov at some point, but that would be a replacement for Zadorov, and this would be a long-term guy. I was shocked when Montreal traded him. I was like, really? Hughes? Okay. But yeah, I just want to throw it out there. But really, what I really want, my Christmas present is Hanifin and Zadorov and Patrick Kane. And then this team would look great. Hanifin extended $7.25 million times 8 years. So what are you guys thinking? Am I a bit crazy for suggesting Hanifin and Zadorov? Is this enough? I don't know if it is, to be honest with you. It's close. They might be like, take out a few of these 3rd round picks or take out the 5th round pick and Nick Abruzzese and throw in Niemela. Let's give us like a proper prospect. I'm sure they would be asking about Minton or Cowan. I have no interest in getting rid of either one of those guys either. They just look so good. But, I would maybe give up Minton, but this trade would have to look completely different. Cowan seems like a no-go, to be honest with you. I just wouldn't. I don't think so. But who knows? So what are you guys thinking? Obviously, this is my 3rd ever video. If you have any comments, suggestions, write them down below. Obviously, I'm new to the YouTube scene. So please let me know how I can improve. If you're enjoying this, if you want to hear more, I'll be posting updates every single day. Just subscribe, hit that bell, like it, type something in the comments. Let's help me build a little bit. But honestly, I appreciate everybody here. Thank you for watching. I don't know if anybody is going to watch this, but if you do, I hope you have a fantastic day. I really do appreciate you. Yeah, and I'll see you tomorrow.